Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Sunday, May 14th, 2023. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there that watch Ron's Rundown. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Sunday in Major League Baseball. First up, it's the Los Angeles Angels taking on the Cleveland Guardians. We're going to see Patrick Sandoval and Tanner Bybee on the mound in this one. Patrick Sandoval was good enough last start against the Astros. Although he gave up 4 earned runs, he still went 6 1/3 innings for the Angels in a 6-4 Halos win. And the Angels have won each of the last 3 starts that Sandoval has made. He's facing a Guardians team that has struggled against lefties mightily in 2023, and we saw him struggle against lefties last year as well. I think Sandoval pitches well, gives him a quality start here. And Bybee, he pitched really well in his Major League debut. Was not as sharp in his next start, and then his last start against the Tigers, 3 2/3 innings, 7 base hits, and 4 earned runs, 4 walks to 2 strikeouts. That's pretty concerning. Now facing an Angels team that hits righties very well. So I'm going to take the Los Angeles Angels on the money line in the early game. Next up, we see the New York Mets taking on the Washington Nationals. Max Scherzer and Jake Irvin are your starters. I think this could be a breakout game for Max Scherzer this season, as we know he's struggled so far in 2023, a 5.56 ERA, very not Scherzer-like numbers there, and even worse numbers on the road at 7.13 ERA in his 17 2/3 innings. However, he's been off for about 10 days now, and I do think, facing a Nationals team that certainly doesn't, strike out much, and they can get on base, but doesn't really have a lot of power in that lineup. I think Scherzer can put together a quality outing, and I think the Mets bats are also going to back him up in a big way. Jake Irvin, he's pitched well so far in 2023, but I do have some regression concerns. He has a 7-8 walk-to-strikeout ratio in 10 2/3 innings of work, which is not what you want to see. The base hits and the home runs haven't hurt him. He hasn't given him a single home run yet this year. But I do think against the Mets team, it does a great job at working pitch counts, getting on base via the walk, not really striking out much. This is going to be the toughest matchup that Irvin's had so far at the big league level. I like the Mets' chances to get to him and the Nationals bullpen, which has been one of the worst bullpens in baseball this season. I think Scherzer gives the Mets some good innings here. Give me the New York Mets on the run line. I like them to win this game pretty comfortably. Next up, we see the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the Baltimore Orioles. We're going to see Mitch Keller and Kyle Gibson on the mound in this one. Now, the Pittsburgh Pirates offense has been tough to watch the last couple of weeks, but I do think, you're facing Kyle Gibson, somebody I don't really have a ton of faith in going into this start. In his last 2 games, 12 2/3 innings combined, 16 base hits, 8 earned runs, 2 home runs, 2 walks, and only 4 strikeouts. The strikeout numbers really dropping in the last couple of games for Gibson, both losses for the Orioles. And, the Orioles have hit lefties very well, but not so much righties, facing a tough right-handed pitcher in Mitch Keller here, who's coming off a complete game shutout against the Colorado Rockies, where he went 9 innings of 1 walk, no home run, of course, 8 strikeout baseball, and a 2-0 Pirates win. He has been outstanding for the Pirates this season, now a ERA below 3 at 2.72. Numbers aren't as good on the road as compared to PNC Park, but I still think Keller pitches well enough here to give the Pirates a chance. If they don't win a game like this, it's going to be a tough season, I think, for Pittsburgh. Their offense is certainly struggling, but I think this could be a nice breakout spot. So give me the Pittsburgh Pirates on the money line on the road, getting a really good price. Next up, we see the Tampa Bay Rays taking on the New York Yankees. Zach Eflin and Clark Schmidt are your starters. Zach Eflin, although he gave up 4 earned runs in his last start, I watched that game. I thought he pitched actually pretty well. He was really efficient. His pitch count was low in that game throughout, and he just really had one bad inning against Baltimore, and then the home run from Adley Rutschman was a mistake pitch. But otherwise, Zach Eflin's pitched well this season. He's got a 2.91 ERA. I do think he bounces back here. And Clark Schmidt on the other side, we're starting to see him improve quite a bit. And his strikeout numbers were always good. He's got 43 Ks in 35 1/3 innings. But his last start against the A's, 6 innings, 2-run ball. The game before that against the Guardians, 4 1/3, only 2 runs, but those were both unearned runs. And 4 strikeouts against a team that doesn't really strike out much. So I think Schmidt is really improving. Those were both starts at Yankee Stadium, which he's been really strong in Yankee Stadium this season. 3.52 ERA, 29 strikeouts in 23 innings at home. I think we see a pitcher's duel here. I'm going to take the under in Tampa Bay, New York. I know we've seen some high-scoring games between these two in this season series, but I like a low-scoring game here. Give me the under. Next up, we see the Atlanta Braves taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. No official starter for the Braves right now, so there's no official lineup for this game. We should see Yusei Kikuchi going for Toronto. Kikuchi's been interesting because he's having a strong season so far. 5-0, 3.35 ERA, and an even better numbers at Rogers Center, 11 2/3 innings with a .77 ERA. However, Kikuchi's strikeout numbers have really dipped this season. He's got a 7.88 Ks per 9 rating so far, and his home runs are still up, 1.91 home runs per 9 in his first 37 2/3 innings. So he's got that 3.35 ERA, but a 5.02 FIP and a pretty steep 4.76 expected ERA. The Braves hit lefties very well. They have a very low strikeout rate as of late in the last couple of weeks. They're number 1 in team OPS. They're number 2 in isolated power. So I do think Kikuchi could be in trouble here. I think this could be his first rough start at Rogers Center this season. Right now I'm leaning towards Atlanta. Maybe take the team total over if I don't love the starting pitching option for the Braves. Hopefully we can get that information by the time we post the video. I can update in the comment section. But right now leaning towards the Braves on the money line. Next up, we see the Cincinnati Reds taking on the Miami Marlins. We're going to see Luke Weaver and Braxton Garrett on the mound. And this one, definitely a game that's not my favorite on the board. I'll be staying away from this one more than likely. But I do think out of the two starters, both guys not really in good form going into this game. I do think Braxton Garrett has the higher ceiling, and I do think he has the better chance of bouncing back here. Even though Luke Weaver's got really good strikeout stuff, he gives up a lot of sharp contact, a lot of home runs, 8 home runs in his first 22 innings of work this season. And I do think Miami, a team that limits strikeouts at the plate, especially against righties, although their numbers, team OPS and isolated power-wise, have not been the best as of late, I think that they can get to Weaver for a few runs early on, and I think Braxton Garrett can put together a pretty solid outing here. A couple starts ago, he really struggled against Atlanta, 11 earned runs allowed. His last start against the Diamondbacks wasn't too bad. He still gave up 4 earned runs, but he had 6 strikeouts in 5 1/3 innings. I think he bounces back here. I'm going to take the Miami Marlins and a very slight lean on the money line. Next up, it's the Seattle Mariners taking on the Detroit Tigers. Logan Gilbert and Joey Wentz on the mound. Now, usually I don't look to take the Mariners when they're facing a left-handed starter. The Mariners have struggled against lefties overall this season, but we saw him get to Matthew Boyd in the first game of this series for a few runs. I think 6 runs in the first 2 innings, and now you're facing another struggling lefty in Joey Wentz, who's got a 6.16 ERA at Comerica Park this season in 19 innings of work. 4 home runs allowed already. I think the Mariners can get to him for enough runs for Logan Gilbert. I mean, Gilbert's been sensational this season, especially in his last couple of games where he went back-to-back 6-inning performances plus of 2 earned run ball or less with a lot of strikeouts along the way. He's missing bats. He's limiting the home run ball. He's limiting the walks as well. I think he pitches well here against a Tigers team that has hit lefties very well, but not so much right-handed pitchers this season and in the last couple of weeks. When you look at Detroit, their strikeout rate's pretty high against righties, that 24% in the last couple of weeks. I think Logan Gilbert puts together another quality start. I think the Mariners grab another victory. So give me the Seattle Mariners on the money line with a little bit on the run line as well. Next up, we see the Chicago Cubs taking on the Minnesota Twins. We're going to see Marcus Stroman and Louis Varland as the projected starters. It's tough to trust either of these offenses right now. I mean, when you look at the Minnesota Twins against right-handed pitchers in the last 2 weeks, Minnesota's 28th in baseball in team OPS. Much better power numbers, but a very high strikeout rate as well. The Cubs on the other side, very poor power numbers. They're ranked 26th in isolated power. Their OPS numbers are around league average, but Marcus Stroman has pitched well this year, even though he's got a 2-3 win-loss record. That's why we don't look at that kind of number. We look at the ERA at 2.28, 1.47 away from home. We know he struggled a little bit at Wrigley Field in his time with the Cubs, but has been really sharp on the road. And Louis Varland, his last start was one of his best by far so far at the big league level this season. 6 innings, 1 earned run, and 6 strikeouts against the San Diego Padres in a low-scoring game. In that one, I think we're going to see another low-scoring game here. Give me the under in Chicago, Minnesota. Next up, we see the Houston Astros taking on the Chicago White Sox. Hunter Brown and Lucas Giolito are your starters. I'm going to take another under in this game between two teams that against right-handed pitchers have also been not really trustworthy offensively. Hunter Brown, his last start was a little bit concerning because he gave up 4 earned runs and 9 base hits against the Angels, but we got to remember that Angels team is really hitting righties well this season and the last 3 weeks plus. The White Sox, not so much. When you look at their numbers, Chicago 21st in baseball in isolated power against righties, 23rd in team OPS, and that's through 461 plate appearances, so pretty healthy sample size. I think Brown puts together a bounce-back outing, and Lucas Giolito, he pitches really well at home, a 1.37 ERA at Guaranteed Rate Field. The Astros near the bottom of the league in most important hitting metrics against righties this season. I think we're going to see another low-scoring game. Give me the under in Astros-White Sox. Next up, we see the Kansas City Royals taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. No official starter for Milwaukee. I am seeing Freddie Peralta listed on ESPN, so he could be the starter here, but Jordan Lyles should be going for Kansas City. That's enough for me to take the Brewers on the run line. Jordan Lyles 0-6 with a 6.2 ERA. Usually gives up 4+ earned runs a game with a good amount of home runs to go with it. He's given up at least 2 home runs in each of his last 5 starts. Those were all Royals losses, with 4 of those 5 being losses by 2+ runs. He walks a lot of batters, gives up a lot of base hits. The Brewers hit righties well. It's enough for me. Give me the Milwaukee Brewers on the run line at home. Next up, we go to Coors Field as the Phillies take on the Rockies. Aaron Nola and Kyle Freeland are your starters. I like the value we're getting with Colorado at home. I know Aaron Nola in his career has actually pitched pretty well at Coors Field, but he also struggled at Coors Field back in 2021, where he struggled overall in that season with an ERA above 4. So far this year, he's got an ERA above 4 at 4.44, and I do think that the Rockies bats will be able to get to him for a few runs. We know Nola's had issues with the home run ball this season, giving up at least 1 homer in each of his last 4 starts. His strikeout numbers are starting to pick it up a little bit, but he's still been very inconsistent this year. And Kyle Freeland's been sharp this season. His sub-4 ERA for a Rocky is never an easy thing to do, and he's pitched 26 1/3 innings at home this season, so a majority of his work has been at Coors Field. A 4.1 ERA, not too bad at Coors Field. And the Phillies, their numbers against lefties in the last couple of weeks have not been very good. We know Bryce Harper is back in the lineup, a left-handed hitter, so naturally those numbers are going to dip a little bit, but when you look at the Philadelphia Phillies, 26th in baseball in team OPS against lefties in the last 2 weeks, with the league highest strikeout rate at 29.1%, and their walk percentage 2.8%. Very, very small number there. Definitely the lowest in baseball through about 140 plate appearances. Not the largest sample size, but still, it's 2 weeks of baseball. So I do think the Rockies getting that plus money price. You see these names on paper, Aaron Nola, the ace of the Phillies rotation the last couple of years. It's going to give us a good price with the home dog. So give me Colorado on the money line here. Next up, we see the Texas Rangers taking on the Oakland Athletics. We're going to see Andrew Heaney and Drew Ruzinski on the mound in this game. I like the over in this one. The Oakland A's have been pretty competitive against left-handed pitchers as of late, and their team OPS and isolated power numbers are strong. But the big thing for me is Andrew Heaney is a strikeout-dependent pitcher, and the Oakland A's have done a pretty good job at limiting strikeouts against lefties. The 19.1% strikeout rate in the last 2 weeks is one of the lowest in baseball. So I don't think Heaney's going to be able to rely on those Ks in this game, and he's given up a lot of home runs and walks already this year. I think that could be a problem for him in this one. On the other side, Drew Ruzinski, I really don't trust his game right now. He's 0-3 with an 8.16 ERA. Gave up 3 earned runs in his first start and then 5 earned runs each in his next 2 outings against the Mariners and the Yankees. You look at the final scores that he's played: an 11-7, 5-3, and 10-5. I think him and the Oakland Athletics bullpen struggles in this game again. Give me the over in Texas, Oakland. Next up, we see the San Diego Padres taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. Ryan Weathers and Tony Gonsolin are your starters. I like the Dodgers in this game at home. Ryan Weathers has been featured both out of the bullpen and in the starting rotation at different times this season. To me, he's not really effective as a starting pitcher. The strikeout numbers have kind of been all over the place. His control can certainly be a problem, and he does give up a good amount of home runs. I think the Dodgers, although they're not a great lineup against lefties, we're starting to see their improvements. The BABIP is starting to go up a little bit, and I do think they'll be able to get to him for a few runs early. But, Tony Gonsolin, maybe not my favorite starting pitcher to back because he doesn't really earn a lot of strikeouts, doesn't usually pitch too deep into ball games. But his last start, got to give him credit. Although the Brewers ended up winning that game, he went 6 innings of no earned run baseball with 6 strikeouts. He gave up 3 unearned runs, but his defense just didn't help him in that game. No walks allowed. I thought he pitched really well in that game, and I think he's going to pitch well in this spot against the Padres offense that they had a lot of big names: Tatis, Soto, Machado, Bogarts, you name it. But they're struggling. Give me the Los Angeles Dodgers on the money line. Next up, we see the San Francisco Giants taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Logan Webb and Brandon Pfaadt are your starters. Now, I do think Brandon Pfaadt is eventually going to be a strong starting pitching option at the major league level, whether it's for Arizona or another team. But right now, we just haven't seen enough from him. We've seen him really struggle in his first 2 starts at the big league level, giving up 13 earned runs in 9 2/3 innings with 6 home runs allowed in those 2 games combined and only 6 strikeouts. I do think he'll pitch better in this start than he has in the first 2 games, but just not enough with Logan Webb pitching really well for San Francisco on the other side. And the big thing for me with Logan Webb is now he's starting to get that ground ball stuff working again. His last game, 16-6 ground ball to fly ball ratio. The game before that, 11-11. He'll take that 50%. 11-8 the game before, 12-4 the game before. So he's starting to get that sinker pitch really working, get those ground balls, get those double plays. I think it works well for him in this start. So give me the San Francisco Giants on the money line on the road. And your final game for Sunday's card in Major League Baseball, it's your Sunday Night Baseball contest on ESPN as the St. Louis Cardinals take on the Boston Red Sox. Miles Mikolas and Corey Kluber are your starters. I'm going to take the over in this game, even though we already see a steep total. Maybe not a ton of value on the over. I still think we get over this number, as Miles Mikolas has had some issues with his control. We saw him walk 3 batters in his last game. His pitch count went way up there in the early innings of that game. He only went 4 1/3 innings with 96 pitches. And he's facing a Red Sox team that's got great numbers against right-handed pitchers as of late. They limit strikeouts, so they're going to be able to work pitch counts. They get on base, number 2 in baseball in team OPS, and they're 5th in the league in isolated power in the last 2 weeks against righties. But when you look at St. Louis on the other side, they're also hitting right-handed pitchers very well. Low strikeout rate, they're 7th in isolated power, they're 8th in team OPS, and they're facing Corey Kluber, who's had a 7.71 ERA so far at Fenway Park through 18 2/3 innings, giving up 6 home runs along the way with an 0-3 record. I think we see a high-scoring game. Either team could win it late. Give me the over. And that's it. Those are the games for Sunday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.